Disney Snow Globe that you absolutely love, but it looks something like this, where the water is half full and it just needs a water change, but you're not sure how, stay tuned. Okay, what you're gonna need is a hot glue gun with some hot glue gun sticks. You can get this at the dollar store, and the sticks at the dollar store. You'll need needle nose pliers, which you can also get at the dollar store, and flathead screwdrivers. You may need just one, you may need two. You'll be able to tell once you start opening it up. And then just in case any of the little pieces break, super glue. Another thing you need is a towel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the towel in the sink. Now, I make a little hole right here, especially for this one, because look, it's got this clock on top, so I wanna be really careful and not break that off. So I'm gonna make a hole specifically for that clock to go through. And we're gonna pad all around it as much as we can, because we don't want anything breaking off. Very carefully. Pat around it. Now, as you can see, I have done this before. I've got hot glue already around it. You probably will not have the hot glue if you haven't done this before to your own. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that screwdriver and just pop up the hot glue. In your case, if you haven't done this before, well, I'll show you what you're gonna do. Now, in my most recent videos and in this video, I'm going to show you what I do to avoid putting hot glue all over the sides. Oh boy. This really, honestly, wasn't necessary. This was like one of my first ones that I redid. And hot glue comes out pretty darn easy. Okay. Now, if you didn't have this hot glue all around it, didn't have to pull it up, you're just probably going to have to pry right here. You're gonna put it in here, pry it, because there's probably a little bit of cement glue on the inside of there, keeping you from opening it. There we go. All right, so you're gonna pull this out. Now, depending upon what yours looks like on the inside, you might have that cement. You see that orange stuff? You might have that glue everywhere, and that's a nightmare. You just gotta try to roll it back as much as you can so that you can get to this plug. The plug is where you want to get. Okay, so as you see that I have done this before, I do have hot glue covering the actual plug. So I gotta get that out of there. And just peel it off. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you are gonna very gently want to pull this back. Now this is when I said you might need multiple sets of flatheads, because if you pull one in on one side, let me get my good needle nose. Pull it in on one side, you're gonna wanna gently wiggle it out side by side. Now look at this. You see, I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of cracking right here, so you wanna be extra careful with what's happening. Maybe try to grab it from the other side. Okay. And you want to be careful here too, because there's glass on the outside right here. You don't want to break that. I've done that before. Very gentle. So you might need to keep a screwdriver in here, a flathead. And you might need to pry from multiple areas. Take your time. Be slow. You don't want to break anything. So I pulled it a little bit there. A little bit on this side. See, it's slowly working it up. Make sure you set aside time for this, because you don't want to rush through it. You will regret it. I have regretted it. I've done this many times, and it's lots of different snow globes, because my husband and I thrift a lot, so we come across a lot of, you know, Disney snow globes that have just been thrown away because they're lacking water. Or now in my case of the Cinderella snow globe, there are cords here, and we want to be careful because she actually lights up. So you want to be careful and not mess with those cords, really. Okay, so he's slowly coming up. Now, it would be easier if it wasn't for all of that glue that we're going to see in a second on the inside. There we go. Be careful when you pull them out because you don't want to break any pieces off of the characters. Looks pretty good. You might want to clean them off. Don't have to, but you might want to if they're dirty. These look fine. I recommend using distilled water. So what you're gonna wanna do, if you wanna keep the glitter that is inside of here, and I definitely don't recommend getting craft store glitter unless you know the specific kind to get, because some of it will float and it won't go down. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pour this as gently as we can. In there, save as much glitter as we can. All right, so now we've got the glitter, it's kind of floating around all over. You want it to settle, so you set it aside, let that water settle. I think when I originally did this, I used tap water. I recommend distilled water. Now, you can clean this out on the inside if you want to. That's not really my purpose right now. Mine is just making sure it's full. So, I'm gonna pour some distilled water in. Now you're gonna pour it to where it is almost full. You gotta keep in mind the characters that you're putting in there are going to take up some of that room for the water. But it's okay if you have a little spillage. So you'll probably, when you put those back in, you put the plug back in, you're gonna have a little spillage, which is totally fine. And you're just gonna pour it out. But you wanna make sure you don't have any bubbles like we just had, because obviously we're refilling it. We don't wanna have any bubbles. You know, I've got some floaties in there. I might not wanna save this glitter. Ugh, yeah, I'm not gonna save this glitter. If you wanted to save the glitter, you would pour the glitter in first before you put in the rest of the distilled water. You would just pour this out. Since it's all settled at the bottom, pour all the water out, and then you'd pour distilled water in here, and then pour the glitter in here, shake it up, pour the glitter in here, do it again, pour it in here. But since this has some weird floaties and stuff in it, I'm just gonna dump it in. Okay. Now, I do think I want a little more water in there. I guess there's a little bit of water. I think all the clumps are gone. Okay. There we go. We still got quite a bit of glitter in there and no clumps that I see. Okay, when we put this back in here, we're gonna be careful of the wires, make sure they're not sticking out. Okay, so what we're gonna do with Cinderella is, I don't think she has to be faced a certain way, but I would make sure that when you're putting yours in, you make sure that they're faced the way that you want them to face. Like maybe you lifted this up and make sure that they're faced to whatever way you want it to face. In fact, I should probably do that too. Okay, so the clock faces this way, so we'll probably want them like this. Now we're just gonna try to drop it back in carefully. Now watch this, you're gonna slowly, side by side, you're gonna have water come up on the side right here. See that water creeping up? That's okay. That means you're not gonna have any bubbles. Okay, slowly, inch by inch. You want to be careful here because you can sink. The whole thing will just suddenly go and suck in. Okay, carefully. We're putting it back in. You can lift it up, make sure the characters are in place. Okay, looking good, looking good. I think I'm gonna pour a little more water out of there so I can stick it a little closer. You might see when you pull it back, it lets a little bit of that water pressure out when you're trying to pour it in, push it in a little further. Otherwise it's not really gonna budge. And then all of a sudden it's just gonna totally suck in, which we do not want that. Okay. Got it in there pretty good. Now what we're gonna do is dump the water out, the excess water. I got a little bubble in here, which is annoying, but that's okay. It's a tiny bubble, that's fine. All right, so now we got it in there. We're gonna get our hot glue gun ready. All right, once we got our hot glue gun to work, it's practically dripping out on its own. It's ready to go. We are gonna just cover that crack. If it's hard for you to see, I apologize. I gotta get my head in here. Probably gonna have to use multiple glue sticks for this. There's one. All right. If it looks messy, don't worry about it. No one's gonna see this part except for you when you eventually, you know, refill it in the future. We just wanna make sure we get anywhere where there could be leaks. We don't want leaks. And sometimes I like to smooth that down with my finger. Put the gloves down and come back around if it's not too hot, which sometimes it is. Don't burn yourself. Because I've done that too. Okay, smoothing it down. You want to be careful too because some of them don't have mechanisms on the inside, but this one does. It's got quite a few little dingle boppers in here. So you don't want to take up too much room with your hot glue on like one like this. You probably can't see anything with my hand right there. Okay, just gonna get a couple more cracks that I see. Again, it does not need to look beautiful. Unless you're like my parents or my mom, especially is like a perfectionist, she would be going back and trying to make everything perfect. But I'm like the complete opposite where I'm like, just get it done. Okay, so that is done. Should be easy for us to pull up next time, which is great. Okay, so now we've got this device. So this will plug into this piece right here. And we also want to make sure that we have left room for this piece, which will come in right here. So we want to make sure that that is angled the right way. So first, let's get this plugged in. Don't remember which, I think that might be right. I'm not positive. We'll have to test it. Okay, and then the hole, where is the hole? The hole's over here. So face it like this. And for this one, it spins it. So we want to make sure that this part right here actually goes into those holes that you saw down below in the plug. Okay, let's double check, make sure everything looks good. Should probably put batteries in this. Okay, so I just put batteries in. Now I had this backwards, so it's a good thing I checked before I sealed this. You can see the lights coming through. You know what, I'll keep it on while I do this. So I'm gonna stick it back on. And let's get this back in here. That might be kind of tough. It's got to go on there perfectly onto that screw. I caught on something. Ah, there we go. Good, and they're spinning. Perfect. Okay, so what we're gonna wanna do to seal this one up, last time I went a little crazy with it and just sealed all around. Let me see why I did that. So for this one, it's a special case, and it's just because they have the special spinner there, so if I lift it up and try to put it back down, it's not gonna set the right way. So for this one, I do understand why I had to do that. However, we don't need to do it fully all the way around. We'll just do a little bit here, do a little bit here, and that should be enough to hold it. We'll wait until it dries, pick it up and test it, make sure that's enough. Just hold it in place. We don't need to go crazy with it. Let's flip it up and see. Looks pretty good. Perfect. And there you have it. There's a tiny bubble in there, but it's okay. Better than it was, that's for sure.